Balake, where's Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Aaron.
Aaron and Sterling are here. I guess I should put our names up on the screen.
Yeah, just spell the last name right and we'll be good.
Well, luckily you spelled your last name right, so we're all set.
That's right. Okay, that's right. That's right.
Welcome everyone for some more SPTV. We're going to do a little another of our weekly chats with Sterling Tompkins. I saw you did your first Q&A live stream yesterday. How did that go?
Oh man, I want to believe in my head it was a complete shit show, but some people actually said it was decent. It wasn't easy. There's a lot to StreamYard, but it was kind of interesting. It was really just a trial, and it was an easy run because I was talking about the channels that I admire the most.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right?
I mean, what's most important is that you're having fun and you're learning, and there's no way to learn it other than doing it, you know?
Right. Right.
And
I tried that. And every time you try to learn it on StreamYard, you're afraid you're going to click live by accident and start a stream. So, yeah, I did get a lot of dead air comments saying it's okay. It's only Aaron that cares about those.
Actually, I was watching your stream for a while, and sometimes there was so much dead air, I thought my computer had frozen.
Yeah, that's right. Because all you can see is my eyes moving.
And you're very good at staying very still, by the way. Yeah,
I'll remember that to move a little bit. Yeah.
Well, your mom Biddy did her first interview on YouTube with Mark and Janice over on Our Scientology Stories. That was pretty cool. I didn't get to watch the whole thing. Did you watch it?
I did watch the whole thing. I know where I get that ability to just go off and ramble in a certain direction and not stay focused. But no, all jokes aside, she did a fantastic job. And interviewing with Janice was probably the best start for her. They've known each other a long time, and they could cover the Apollo and Florida and all that kind of stuff. So it was excellent. It was excellent.
How many years would you estimate your mom's been out of the Sea Org?
I would say it's right about 23 years.
And pretty much out of Scientology for the same amount of time?
Yeah, no, there was no lingering Scientology in her life after she left. I believe she just was done with that and got the hell out of Dodge. Yeah.
There is a certain, I don't know what word to use for it other than the Scientology word, a certain beingness that anyone who worked at that highest echelon of Scientology management has, that I wonder if your mom is even aware that she still has it, or if she's even aware what it is, because to her it's just normal. And I'm mentioning it because it's like she absolutely has it.
Right.
It's almost, I don't even know. Oh, I'm going to totally exaggerate, and it's going to sound like an insult when it's not. There's this certain almost, oh my God, it's going to sound like an insult when this is totally intended to be a compliment.
But go ahead, because
almost a somewhat lingering. Yeah. I'm hesitant to use this word, but I'm going to throw it out there and then I'll walk it back. This lingering menace where, okay, that sounds so bad. And I don't mean it. Where, okay, there's this phrase, someone who really has true power and authority, like talks softly, but carries a big stick. And, the people who are at that high echelon of management, or at least, the minimal interaction that I had with those people, because I never lived with those people. I never knew those people. I never got to see that those people were just normal people. Right. So I was like, little Scientologist low on the totem pole. And my interactions with the senior Scientology executives sort of had that feel of like, they didn't have to scream, because you knew how much power they really did have, organizationally speaking, how much they could bring down upon your head, that they could speak softly. And there was still, that's why I say lingering menace, because it's sort of an implied menace. I don't have to speak loud. Like the middle level executives and the low level executives would scream, they would bang tables, they would do all this stuff. And I know that happened at international management. But usually when those high level executives would come down to the low levels, they were very soft-spoken. They were very kind. They were very gentle. But it was this implied, because I don't have to raise my voice. What kind of authority I bring to the table. And I just feel like your mom still kind of has that. And to be honest, it could just be me projecting it onto her.
Right.
Because when she talks about all those people up there, she talks about them without, like, it's just no big deal. I don't know. I'm rambling a little bit, but
no, I get what you're saying. She's not compensating for anything.
She's not overcompensating for any. Yes, she's
no,
exact. You
she's
nailed
got
it.
a presence, and she carries it to this day. Don't ever try to do tech support for her. Even if you're her son, she will yell at you or get really short quickly.
Yes, I think the way I described it to you on the phone when we were talking is like, you can tell she does. There's no bullshit accepted at this. You know, the complaint department is closed, is what I like to say.
Right.
Like,
Well, and there's a distinction too. And it's actually interesting you brought that up. There's a distinct distinction in that, in my opinion, and obviously there was not a whole lot of interaction with her where she was my senior or was ordering directly to me. That never really occurred. But when she was intense, when I did see her be intense with other people or direct, let's give a great comparison. Let's look at a Dave Miscavige and a Biddy Miscavige, Biddy Blythe. Dave Miscavige, when he did it, even though his intention may have been he wanted to get something done, he always wanted to dig and get under your skin and hurt you a little bit while he was doing it. Biddy just wanted to get it done. She didn't care either way. The factor was it needed to be done, so let's get it done. She never made that personal. I don't believe, in my experience, there may be some other people that have a different one. She never dug at you. It was, is it done? No, or is it not? Okay, so just go get it done. And that was a difference in how I think she approached things. And she was, mostly administrative, and that's what I have to say. Yeah.
Right. Other words have come to mind, other descriptors, which is that when I really get what really comes through to me is this sense of, I dealt with David Miscavige for 20 years. There's nothing that can faze me. There's nothing that can shock me, faze me, throw me off, whatever. I'm nonplussed. Like, it's like almost like, who gives a shit about anything? But not in a negative way. Nothing's going to blow me away. Nothing's going to impress me. Again, I feel like it's coming out negative, but it's totally, I hope it doesn't, it feels like it's coming out negative. I hope it's not being received negative.
I don't think it is. And you know what, I'm going to cover that with her a little bit tonight when we have our live, which is at 5:30.
You're going live with her?
I'm doing a live with her. My first interview with her.
Tonight. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. One thing I'm excited for, and just if I can mention it quickly, is that you realize when most ex-Scientologists and SEER members get together and they talk, you really don't get a solid conversation one-on-one because everyone's telling their story or talking about something or, piping in about their experience. So after 2 hours, you've heard, bits and pieces of everything. And I've never actually sat down with my mom and had a long conversation about her upbringing, having Justin and myself, what she thought when she left the Sea Org the first time, when she came back. There's so many facets, including how my dad landed her. I don't understand. My Foster, love him to death, but he's the goofiest guy in the world. He's not smooth at all. So there's so many little interesting facets to her life that I want to talk about and that I want to find out about. It's going to be in a public forum, so that'll be interesting, but I'm really looking forward to the conversation tonight. That's
great.
Yeah, really have a one-on-one to talk to her. Now, back to the point, what you're asking is, you nailed it when you talked about, she had this, and you'd have to ask her, and hopefully she comes on your channel to talk to you about this, because I would be interested to see in how well you word this and what kind of answer you get. But she didn't really get fazed by Dave. And I know that's hard to say. And I don't know if that was because she didn't care, she wasn't afraid, or whatever it is. But I think it's inherent in her personality, is like, she just like a lot of stuff just water off her back. She doesn't get fazed easily. She's really tough in that way. And that's her exterior. She's a soft, cuddly teddy bear, Nathan. And only her son maybe could say that. But she's got a very tough veneer, and Dave didn't really ever faze her. So I don't know if it was just their working dynamic together, but I do know that she's one of the few people that he feared because they knew she could, she didn't care enough about his opinion to make it for him to have a large effect on her. if that makes any sense at all.
I think it does.
Yeah.
In the interview she did, they showed a lot of photos, including some baby pictures of you and your twin brother Justin. But they didn't show. I got another version from National Geographic that was sent in. This one right here. It's amazing, the similarities and the differences. Justin is, I said, like Bigfoot. No one, people only see him, but grainy images from far away. No one's ever proven he exists. People talk about him like they've seen him sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was a great baby shot.
It is, and if you actually look online, I think they've stabilized some of the footage of some film taken in 1967 or something like that of Bigfoot up in the Seattle, Washington area. So, just the hair grew on the rest of the body after that. So,
let's see. People in the live chat are asking for the name of your channel. If you're watching on my channel, guys, I've actually linked to Sterling's channel in the description down below. And one of my screens just took a shit. Oh, there it is. And also your handle is at, like, if you go to YouTube at this point and you put in your name, I think your channel does come up.
Yeah, I haven't checked. I hope so.
But otherwise, his handle, if you put in the search field, at Leaving Scientology, Loving Life, or is it Leaving Scientology and Loving Life?
I think I couldn't put in the N for some reason, so I just did Leaving Scientology, Loving Life.
There you go. All one word with an at symbol. It'll bring it up.
Right.
You know, I want to briefly chat with you about your thoughts, my thoughts, both of our thoughts on, is Scientology capable of any sort of change or reform post the conviction of Danny Masterson? Man, I bet everyone's got a different opinion on this, but I think it's just worthy to chat about.
Sure.
Why some things might change. What would it be? Why things won't change? What are the reasons? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I've been watching all the content you guys have been putting up, which is excellent. I think the answer is no. I think they will not change their methodology and how they approach it, other than they're just going to be more proactive and quicker about covering it up and about removing the people involved to locations where they can't be, deposed or interrogated about it. So, if there's another scenario of this, maybe they'll even handle the victim quicker and get a quick payoff and whatever legal thing they can do to prevent it. Now, I also believe that you had mentioned either yesterday or maybe it was Mark that he thinks that they're going around right now just locating every past occurrence of SA or anything like that, and they're just trying to plug all those holes, which I believe is something they would do based on the repercussions of the whole Danny Masterson case. But do I think they're going to change? No, I don't think so. I think they really believe that letting anything get into the United States justice system is a detriment to their mission, and they could do a better job, which clearly they cannot do a better job. But yeah, I really think that's their approach to it. They're kind of just going to close up a little bit and be more careful. But again, that doesn't mean justice for any victims that are there or future victims, in my opinion. Yeah.
I wondered if perhaps they would be quicker in moving forward now to, when they determine some credible accusation has been made against a Scientologist, to just label that Scientologist PTS type B, which means criminal, and it means they're ineligible for auditing for the time being, and just move them off the org lines and not get so involved in trying to micromanage who has to do what, who's going to report to. I mean, this is like, it's kind of like a casual, superficial thought here, because if I really try to think through, okay, but what would that really mean? So they, like, instead of sec checking the guy endlessly and figuring out every little detail and having him stay in the org and do lower conditions and pass around a liability formula where everyone's accepting basically a rapist back into the group, they're like, there's no PTS type B, move them off the lines. I'm sorry, you're gonna be in timeout for a number of years. We're not, and so that would be a certain type of cover your ass reform. But they're not going to reform in the sense of, we're going to start involving the police, we're going to start involving authorities, we're going to start allowing Scientologists to sue each other. I don't think that type of
Oh,
reform is
absolutely
even
not.
possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, they will absolutely not do that. And that does bring the question up. So let's say you had someone that you have the victim and the perpetrator, right? And that's two completely different, sides of the coin. So how would you address both? I mean, currently they make sure that the victim knows that they had some causality in the subject, and that they did something wrong, or they did something to create this situation in the first place. Well, look at what's happened now with the YouTube blow up, Leah Remini's show. The ability that when you leave and you finally discard the chains that are Scientology, and you start realizing what life's actually like, and something did happen to you 5, 10, 20 years ago, you're going to get out here and you're going to go, I could talk about this. And what I think about is, how are they going to stop that part of it? How are you going to, even if you go, hey, here's $100,000. We're sorry that happened to you. Sign an NDA, go on with your life. We'll be fine. We're not going to bug you. That's not going to stop someone from later on going, you know what? There needs to be justice served on the person that committed the crime. And I need to see some sort of justice happen. So you have the victim part, which I don't know what they're going to do about. Do they just have to do something to proactively stop this from occurring? On the perpetrator's half, what would be the best thing? Throw them out and say, we kicked them out because they were a sexual criminal. I guess that would be the best thing you could do. But again, that person might have something. So I think they're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. The best thing they could do is follow the law of the land, because then they're not liable. The second something happened, go ahead and report it to the police and let the police handle it the way they're supposed to. And actually have the law do its due diligence and find out what's happening. They'll never do that. So they kind of stick themselves between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to make an argument and then a counter argument. And I think the counter argument is the true one, but I want to start with the argument.
Go for it.
I feel like somebody could make the argument that if Scientology were to come down and say, with some official directive, whatever, some Inspector General Network bulletin from David Miscavige, and say, look, anyone who is found to be credibly guilty of having committed a sexual assault is going to be declared and has to do their A to E steps. I feel like someone could be like, oh my God, if they were to do that, then that would prevent people from getting off their real overts in session, and that would prevent case gain. Right. So I feel like some Scientologists could be like, we can't make rules like that. You have to be free to confess to whatever you want in an auditing session. But here's the counter argument, and I think this is the right one. Scientology there's already sort of, it's already known in Scientology. In a Scientology sec check, a confessional, an auditing session, an auditor will demand that somebody confess something that the person confessing knows will get them declared a suppressive person. In other words, knowing that certain things will get you declared does not prevent those things from coming up in an auditing session.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have someone in a sec check and they confess to, I don't know, talking smack about David Miscavige, or stealing money from Scientology, or, being connected to a known suppressive person. Like, Scientology has already shown that it will demand confessions from people that will result in those people getting expelled. And therefore, I feel like if Miscavige was smart, I'd be interested to hear any counter arguments to this.
Yeah.
He would come down with an order that says anybody who HCO, the ethics officer, determines has committed rape, sexual assault, crimes against children, is to be declared and immediately put onto their A to E. No hundreds of hours of sec checking, no doing lower conditions in the org, no anything. And again, it would still be to cover the organization's ass. It wouldn't be because the organization has reformed and they've decided people need to be protected and the organization is, it would be for the purpose of covering the organization's ass. And yet I do believe that if Miscavige was smart, he would, could, and should issue an order like that. And yet I don't think he will. No. Do you think it would even be possible for him to issue an order such as that?
No. Well, one, no, not in writing. And then two, you got to ask yourself, if someone was instantly declared, well, then what's going to be the distribution on that? because of course they're still going to want to hold that close to their chest. They're going to want only the staff members that are dealing with that particular situation to know, because once you find out outside of that, that essentially what the real thing that happens is if you have someone who's an existing Scientologist and part of the most ethical group in the world, but they're committing SA, isn't that in itself proof that Scientology really does not work? And they don't want that spread around. They don't want that distributed to people. So yeah, you could declare that person immediately, but then don't you create a whispering campaign about what that person may have done or what happened? And I mean, maybe that is the best case scenario for them to do that particular thing. But I still think they're trying to plug all the holes, and in the end, that might not do anything. But that would be a solution. And do I think Dave? Well, let's talk about smart. Dave probably can arguably be considered smart to some degrees, but his bullheadedness and desire to be right and his ego gets in his way. So I don't think he's ever going to make a smart decision or the smart decision to resolve these things. And I do believe, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, but I do believe that, and you mentioned it the other day, I think that Danny's family and his friends might actually believe that this whole thing is just a conspiracy, and Danny just happened to be the target, and it's just fervent anti-Scientologists that are going after him, and they tricked the government into prosecuting, and et cetera, et cetera. Which is because I'm trying to understand, based on your time in the court and what you've explained, how these people could sit there knowing what happened and keep a straight face. And I know their family, and you got to take that into account, but it's still a little baffling to me and hard to get my head wrapped around on how you could have, I guess, cognitive dissonance on that, if that makes sense.
Well, you are so right. I've been inundated with screenshots of what Scientologists have been posting on their personal Facebook pages about this conviction. And they are convinced that this is a conspiratorial attack on Scientology, that this was something organized by Leah Remini, that this is going to be overturned on appeal. Not one person, not one Scientologist that I've seen has said, "Thank God we got rid of the bad apple," or something to that effect.
Which is what you should be saying, right? Well, what humans would say, normal humans would say. Yeah.
And for that reason alone, we can say Scientology will not be implementing any changes. I mean, not overtly. Yeah. I mean, I wonder if there's any changes they could implement that would prevent, like maybe a change would be like, do not write reports about any reports that are written are not scanned into data files, are not sent to no reports are forwarded to management or RTC. Like that could be an order. No local level reports are to be forwarded to management or RTC. That's actually a believable order that could be issued.
But the purpose wouldn't be to help any individual where it happened. It would be to cover Dave's ass, right?
Absolutely.
That'd be the only purpose for that. Now, let's not forget that Scientologists still to this day, if they read anything about the FBI raids in the 70s and anything regarding that subject, they still believe that someone took copier paper, and the only reason the United States government raided Scientology in 1977, whatever year it was, because I was in it at the time, we're being persecuted by the United States government because we're trying to help people, which is absurd to think. But that's probably what happened. And it's probably what people still think to this day about that raid.
That's right.
Which is so provable. So provable. You can't, there's just no way around it. That was completely provable, right?
The posts, and the only reason I haven't done a video with the posts yet is because I need to redact some of the things that are in them to protect sources. But the posts are using language like, of course, real criminals get like 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but religious patriots, patriots get 30 years. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, it's as delusional as the letters. I mean, all the letters for Danny talk about him being drug free, and he didn't take drugs, and he told us to stay off drugs. And they're like, okay, are you saying that just to somehow justify that he was drugging ladies so he could abuse them. I mean, what's the point in that? It makes no sense. And that was obviously throughout all the letters, based on what I've read so far. That's throughout all the letters. I mean, someone sent a letter. I'm gonna bet that someone sent one letter around that was a basic layout of the context of what they wanted in those, and everyone just kind of added their own words, or maybe some even used Chat GPT to write a letter to defend Danny Masterson about his not using drugs, which is absurd.
Yeah.
In the end. Yeah.
And I did a video earlier today saying two new victims of Danny Masterson have come forward, and even since I've posted that video, another new victim of Danny Masterson has come forward, and it's another story where Ashton Kutcher was also involved in the incident. I mean, that really is, I think, why Ashton ended up writing the letter. Is what his hands are a little tied because his hands are so dirty.
Yeah. He was hoping that maybe by doing that, he could get off the hook a little bit, or not face repercussions. Because if Danny starts talking too, right? Danny decides I'm going to turn over and turns over on a lot of people. Well, there's going to be a problem. That's what happens when you have skeletons in your closet. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For the record, I'm on like 3 hours of sleep, and I have another video I have to pre-record later this evening, so I don't want to go too long.
Sure, no problem.
But I know there was some things you had discussed with me previously that you wanted to chat tonight. I sort of preempted whatever we would normally talk about by talking a bit about the any Scientology reforms. But what were some of the things you wanted to chat about?
Well, you know what, we can skip over those because talking about this, I mean, this is a current affair. This is something that is drastically more interesting at this particular moment. I think even Jackson was talking about it today with Mitch on his channel, talking about, playing softball with Danny. And I went to school. I think I told you I went to school with Danny at Mace Kingsley, which was a Scientology school in the LA area. And I played baseball with Danny Masterson. But so if it's okay with you, we'll stick on this subject for a little longer, answer some questions. There's no reason to jump over to it'll be such a strange segue. There's no connection. That I think it would be more of a distraction.
So how old were you? What grades were you going to school with Danny?
You know what? I've never been able to lock down the grades because it was such a different, all the schools I went to going through grade school and high school never really listed those. Like the last grade I was in public school was 3rd grade. So after that, I don't know, but I think I was like 10 or 11. When I was going to Mace Kingsley. And I actually went with Vonnie Ribisi, Danny Masterson, Ethan Suplee, all went to Mace Kingsley at the same time I was there. And I believe I went for like 2 years.
I always wondered if Ethan had grown up in Scientology or whether he joined later. Was he born into Scientology?
I don't know if he was born into it, but he was definitely around when I was a kid. Was
he huge at that young age?
No, he wasn't that big. He was a big kid, but he wasn't that big.
Oh, wow. So are you about to say, Danny's what, 47, 49? I always get it wrong.
I think he's 47 or 48. Yeah. Right.
How old are you?
I'm 47. Yeah. So I think we're almost, we're very close in years. Yeah. I mean, I remember going to his birthday when I was a kid too. The Moonlight Roller Rink when he actually used to date Soleil Moonfry, who played Punky.
He did?
Brewster. Yes. Yeah. That used to be his girlfriend. Yeah.
Was she ever in Scientology?
I don't think so. But I could be wrong about that. I don't want to speak out of place.
She didn't go to the same school that you guys did she?
No, she didn't. Nope. No, she did not. I just remember as a kid, I'm going to the Moonlight Rollerway, which I believe is in Glendale or Burbank. And I was super excited because I used to watch Punky Brewster. And I was like, oh, that's who Danny Masterson's girlfriend is. Wow, that's so cool. He was kind of looked up to, obviously, because even though he wasn't a celebrity at that point, we all knew he had acting gigs. He would show up to school sometimes and he couldn't play sports because whatever he was wearing, he had to wear in an audition directly after school. So it was always like it was a back and forth on that. He didn't, for sure it seemed like there was pressure on the kid because he needed to perform in auditions. But other than that, I played sports. When we played football, we played baseball and stuff like that. But yeah, and it of course there's no that type of behavior. There was nothing evident at the time with him, but socially speaking, was I mean,
like, I mean, I can think back to when I was that young, and there were kids who were nice kids. There were kids who were absolute assholes. There were, all sorts of kids, even at that young age. Was he, I don't know. How would you describe him back then?
A little aloof, but he was not an asshole. He didn't pick fights. He didn't stand over anyone and be like, I'm better than you. He wasn't as nice as Giovanni Ribisi was a really nice kid. Like he used to protect the younger kids if there ever was a skirmish or any sort of thing like that. And I'm not here to defend Danny Masterson or Giovanni Ribisi. I'm just telling my story of the interactions I had with them. So Masterson was just, he was a kid that was kind of working at a younger age, trying to find that audition. But it's funny, I went to school with him. I saw him after school just a couple times, but I never really hung out with him outside of that. We just shared the love of, I think, baseball at that point. And yeah.
What about his brother, Chris? Did you know Chris?
Did not know Chris. He must have been young enough age. I didn't even know he had a brother until I was in the Sea Org and I saw that Chris Masterson was acting. I had no clue he had siblings. So, and I
only ask because almost everyone I get messages about who knows the family, no matter what they have to say about Danny, they usually say Chris is just like the greatest guy. And I never knew either of them. So, just wondered if you had any interactions with him. All right. Let's see. Let's just jump through some of these chat chats. Ken's channel, authority and yelling happens in the corporate world. As a senior manager, vice presidents and senior vice presidents would never yell, but I heard plenty of S-bombs between senior vice presidents. Wait. As a senior manager, VPs and SVPs would never yell, but I heard plenty of S-bombs. Oh, between SVPs. Okay, I get it. Thank you, Ken. Glenda Stansbury. I was visiting with a client and he was explaining his new business venture. He happens to be Mormon. He asked, do you know Grant Cardone? I said, yes, he's in Scientology and in trouble with the law. He looked very uncomfortable. There you go.
Boy.
Mila Kunis, aka CO Bilf. I'm obviously against murder and abuse, but Charles Manson was framed by religious bigots. No justice till real killer is found. I've read some of the books and seen, some of the, I guess you call them documentaries on Charles Manson. I don't remember seeing or reading anything about him being framed.
Yeah. And I think he admitted to it and was proud of it to some degree. So I don't know how that works, but yeah.
And he didn't personally, like he sent his members went and did the actual crimes from what I understand, but all right. Well, there you go. Cinnamon Whiskey. The Behavior Panel on YouTube has a good podcast on the Kutcher Kunis apology video. This stuff's been covered on so many channels I've stopped watching. And everyone emails me the links. And I appreciate that because oftentimes, the things that people send me links to are extremely helpful and I use them in videos, but there's just so many of them. Like everywhere I look, this subject is being discussed. Have you ever watched any of the Behavior Panel content?
I've not. That sounds interesting, though.
It really is.
Is it? Okay.
Alexis Shad Loman, Ron. Did you get my Facebook message about Bijou out to lunch? Well, I got messages showing photographs of Bijou outside with Jordan Masterson, and she's smoking a vape, and she's she's understandably not looking very happy. But I think that's what you're referring to, Alexis. I got a bunch of messages and a bunch of emails about those kind of things. If it's something other than that, then I probably haven't seen it. Ken's channel says, wow, Ken's channel, thank you. Quora Scientologist Roger Clark answered, what lessons can we learn from the controversy surrounding Danny Masterson and the Church of Scientology? Zip, zero, bupkiss, nothing. See what we are really like. Watch video. Meet a Scientologist. Well, we have met a Scientologist. His name is Danny Masterson. In good standing. Yeah, in good standing. Convicted violent serial rapist and Scientologist in good standing, Danny Masterson. And I'm going to keep calling that until he gets declared a suppressive person. As I said on Chris Cuomo yesterday, one of the things the trial proved definitively and showed is that drugging and violently raping fellow Scientologists will not get you expelled from the group, but telling the police that you were raped by a Scientologist will get you expelled. So go ahead and prove me wrong on that, Scientology, and I'll be happy to correct the record.
Oh yeah, and let's not forget that having a friend or a relative or someone on Facebook or Instagram that they consider suppressive and you're connected to them, even if you don't talk to them, will get you declared. But sexual assault is that they get a pass on that one. So
yeah. Mila Kunis, aka CO Abilf again, religious patriot Danny Masterson addressed the whole cast and asked us to promise not to use drugs except to incapacitate victims. Yes, a true humanitarian. Spencer Davis, is Miscavige a true believer or just a grifter like so many other famous religious leaders? Sterling, you're going to find that no matter how many live streams you do or how many videos you do, this question is going to come up because there's always new people in the live streams and everything. So, you were David Miscavige's brother-in-law at one point. What's your opinion on whether Miscavige is a true believer?
While I was in, I believed he was a true believer. After I left, and knowing what I know about his personal life, the private jets, the motorcycle trips with Tom Cruise, everything that's going around and the perks and benefits that he gets, I don't believe he really believes in it. Because I know, or let me correct that, I've been told by sources that I consider very reliable that this person does know when L. Ron Hubbard passed away that he was incapacitated. He was taking psychiatric drugs. He knows that there's no OT 9, 10, 11, and 12. So at what point can you still be a believer in Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard when you know these facts are true? So I do not believe. I think he's just trying to carry this out as long as he can. But he's already going to go down in infamy. He's already going to be known as one of the worst cult leaders of all time, and he's never going to be able to erase that. And now, thanks to YouTube and channels like yours, that's going to be embedded permanently in history. And I think he knows that. So,
let me know what you think about this, because it's a pretty loaded question. Is he a believer? Because it's not, being a believer, I think, doesn't necessarily just mean one thing. I mean, when you listen to all the different stories from public and staff and Sea Org members, you'll even hear amongst us different levels of belief. Like, I never believed in the most of the information about PTSness because I could see the circular logic in being false PTS and pretended PTS, where eventually you could look and act PTS just because you hadn't studied enough Scientology. And I was like, well, that's sort of unfalsifiable, and therefore it's bullshit, and therefore I don't believe any of it, right?
Right.
But I believed the prison planet story. I believed past lives. I believed the Galactic Confederacy, the Fifth Invader Force, and all this shit. And someone would go, sounds like you were a believer, buddy. And it's like, well, yeah, I believed in certain parts of it. So let me ask you this, Sterling. Do you think, I think Miscavige knows that certain parts of the mythology about L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology are bullshit, but so did L. Ron Hubbard. And like when L. Ron Hubbard wrote Dianetics and he said what a clear is, he knew damn well there were no such thing as that. He knew damn well there was no such thing as
that's true. Yeah,
as those
right.
abilities. And yet I do believe L. Ron Hubbard believed that Dianetics was a workable procedure, but he couldn't help but lie his ass off about it.
You're right.
I mean,
right.
At least that's what I believe. I believe L. Ron Hubbard believed Dianetics was something that could work on people.
I've always, whenever I've thought about that, my thought process has kind of gone too well. You have this guy that created this technology, created a religion. And we do know, based on reports of his contemporaries, that there was a money factor involved in this, right? I believe he made the comment, if you want to make real money, you start a religion. That's paraphrased. What's always made me question things a little bit on that particular point was, and of course I think he knew there was no such thing as clear. And that you couldn't prevent someone from getting sick, and the whole eyesight thing was complete BS. But where I always get dumbfounded is after he wrote the books and the majority of things, and then he got into the OT levels, that's all fine. He kept writing and writing and writing the technological bulletins, the processes of Scientology, the administrative process of Scientology, all this extra work. And for what? That's always gotten me. So maybe at some point he started lying to himself and he did really believe it. And then he just continued rambling on for another 20 years. And And that's what is the, the core now of Scientology. Because I mean, well, most of the books were written in the 50s and 60s. That I always battle back and forth with that one fact. But I do believe that he knew some of it didn't work, but I believe he also knew that therapy in general does work to some degree. And I think he was banking, in my opinion, he banked on that a little bit as a thing, because you can go, Scientology is horrific. Putting person on an e-meter, interrogations are horrific. Auditing a child is horrific. But then there is the therapeutic aspect of it, of just someone talking about their problems and covering instances and having someone to talk to. And that may be what kept Scientology going on for so long, because obviously for it to continue for such a long amount of time, my opinion is that there's some part of it that do make some people happy. And I think you've even pointed out, if they took away all the bullshit, all the control, and just said, hey, come in when you want to, leave when you want to, do what you want to, and we'd happily have you here, but we're not going to control you, it would actually arguably still be somewhat of a force in the field of religion. But I think Dave personally destroyed that part of Scientology. Not defending Scientology, I don't think it's a good thing, but that's my opinion on the matter.
Yeah. Because you look at all this self-help stuff and the sort of the sort of fake guru stuff that's out there, and there's no shortage of people who are able to be convinced that this is the next greatest thing. And honestly, I think that's what allowed Scientology to grow in the 50s and the 60s and 70s. Is it leaned in pretty heavily to the self-empowerment, new age guru kind of, you can do anything, we can show you the route type of thing. And that will always attract a certain number of people. It doesn't matter whether it works or doesn't work. Placebo pills work a certain percentage of the time. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it is. And so many have followed in that footsteps, but they just never get, to the, what Scientology was at its largest, which I think what people have come up with the idea that maybe it was like 300,000 in the United States, possibly. Now it's down to about 30,000.
So the numbers just, if you want to throw these around ever, like, someone who's familiar with this main central file ADO of major service completions, service starts, that since 1954 or 1956, there's been something just north of 400,000 people who have ever started a major Scientology course. And that, of course, is going to include duplicates. But that at its peak, there was perhaps 100,000 active Scientologists in either the late 80s, early 90s. Let me take a quick second to do a request for information, because I'm so frustrated that I've never been able to get this piece of information.
Go for it.
Of all of the people who spent decades at middle management and international management, I have never been able to get anyone to spit out what was the weekly bodies in the shop figure, because active Scientologists can even be defined in many different ways. Is that the enrollment list? Is that the active enrollment for the International Association of Scientologists? Is that, like, for most people who work in a Scientology organization, the weekly bodies in the shop is the raw number of how many people came into this building to do a Scientology thing, no matter what it was, no matter what division it was, division 4, division 1, 2, 4, 6, 5, doesn't, 1, 4, 5, 6, doesn't matter. I have never heard the international bodies in the shop. What range was it in? Weekly range, monthly range, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. I've never heard those figures. That, to me, as a former Scientologist, would be what a meaningful number for what I think of when I think how many people are active Scientologists. Like in the 90s, internationally, on any given week, how many people walked through the doors of a Scientology organization anywhere in the world to do a Scientology thing? I've never heard those numbers.
Yeah.
There's dozens of people who should know those numbers, and I've never heard them.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out. And I would wonder who it would be. I'll go through the list in my head of people that have left that I know worked on that, or at least we're doing Stat Evolution every Thursday night at INT. But yeah, that's a good question. Something I never considered while I was there. But that's a good question.
There's one person who just spoke out for the first time this week on Mitch Brisker's channel, and that's Carolyn Mustard or Caroline Mustard. I'm not sure which.
Yeah. She was in CMU. Yeah, I know her.
She was also marketing exec int, which is interesting because that's what Ronnie Miscavige's post was. So I'm wondering if Caroline was marketing exec int. It must have been after Ronnie, because Ronnie was on that post forever.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
And I wonder what the statistic of marketing exec int would be. Like, could it be something as concrete as, well, how many bodies in the shop were there? I mean, it's silly because that shouldn't be their stat, but you know,
I know what you mean.
Sometimes stats are silly.
Yeah, it was probably people reached or something like that, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But you know, a useless position for about 20 years because Dave constantly would cross order into it and change everything and you know, maybe go watch and see a TV commercial and come back and say, let's just do this. This is going to be the best thing ever. I mean, I remember when he went on a whole roll with the whole Coca-Cola thing, you know, butts in seats and had us read this whole, anyways, he, the amount of times that dude, you know, the best description of Dave's micromanaging is in Ron Miscavige Sr.'s book. When he talks about how much he stuck his little fingers into the music pie and would just constantly order directly down into and do these things. I mean, the stories go on forever, but that would be an interesting question to know what the actual bodies in shop are. But I think the math you did, 2 years ago, where I think you show existing in the world, maybe about 30,000 Scientologists, but you realize if you got all the Scientologists in the world together, you couldn't even fill Dodger Stadium.
I know.
And they still, and here it goes back to believing things. They still believe they're the fastest growing religion in the world, which is just absurd to me. How can you possibly believe it? I mean, go outside, just go outside and look, walk down Sunset Boulevard and just notice you're not going to see, you know, you're not going to see a Scientologist or any mention of Scientology anywhere. In fact, you may, and it's going to be a billboard with Leah on it. And that's going to be your only mention of Scientology.
They believe there are millions of Scientologists in the world. And a funny comparison would be right now, there's about 2 million Teslas have been sold in the world.
Yeah.
You see Teslas everywhere.
I mean,
everywhere you go, you see Teslas, and there's only 2 million of them on the road.
That's insane.
You don't see Scientologists anywhere.
No, you do not.
and you know them if you see them. You know, well, we would know them if we saw them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Red tar for me. Using drugs is different than slipping Mickeys, and that's true. That is true.
Very.
Abigail S. Sterling, StreamYard has a YouTube channel with videos to help use it, and they do live streams for questions.
What? Yes, I started watching the videos on that, and then so now it's just a matter of practicing and then getting Aaron to tell me the little tricks I need to know about certain things. But as you guys all know, he has been a little busy the last couple of days, so we'll get that tech call in sometime.
Absolutely. Hewis Lamilton. Is this a joke about Lewis Hamilton? Question: whatever happened to the UK government and problems with UK citizens on the Freewinds, seafarer working and living rights? I don't have the update on that. I was given information about an investigation that was ongoing, but I haven't followed up on it. And I just get so busy on different subjects that I tend to go, if some important development occurs and someone wants to share it with me, then I'm happy to do a video about it. But I tend not to mark things like that for proactive follow-up. I mean, I guess if I didn't have so many stuff to do videos about, I would. But thank you, Hewis. I think I got an email about that as well. I've officially reached the point where I can't even read all my emails anymore. I mean,
you need an assistant at this
I
point.
actually feel really bad because always responding to all emails and all texts and all messages used to be at the top of my priority list. Like that was something I never lost from the Scientology experience. Like no matter what I returned, I answered all communication, and I simply can't. And the problem is how am I supposed to trust someone to be my assistant unless it's my wife, which that's not desirable.
Yeah, right. Well, think about it. At least the bright side is you've got about 2 more hours each day to use because you no longer have to write reports on anybody. So you've got that time back. I'm never gonna let that go. Just so you know, we're just never gonna let that go.
I'm very proud of my report writing, Sterling. You were a namby-pamby, panty waist, reasonable dilettante.
Oh my god!
And I was dedicated glare. You know. Okay, Rusty is saying Mace Kingsley where? Did you say Mace Kingsley earlier?
I did. For all intents and purposes, all I knew there was only one Mace Kingsley when I was around. So
okay, there was a ranch like out in the desert. Was that I always get these names mixed up because my stepbrother went to one of those desert ranches. There was Oh my God, I cannot believe I'm going to forget this name. Guys in the live chat, what are the names of some of those Scientology ranch schools that were out in the desert? You know, my friend Nathan went to one of them. There was Mace Kingsley. I'm looking in the live chat, guys.
I do think there was one, but not when I was in Mace Kingsley. Mace Kingsley was located in Los Feliz area when I went to it. And actually, interesting fact, Leah's mom was one of the counselors at Mace Kingsley, and that's how she knows me when I was a kid because, well, I was always getting in trouble. So she knew me as a troublemaker way back in the day. So it was fun meeting her again and having her remember me in that way. But yeah, she used to work at Mace Kingsley.
Yeah. So Mace Kingsley. So there was a Mace Kingsley in Los Angeles. There's a Mace Kingsley here in Clearwater, and there might have been a Mace Kingsley out in one of those like New Mexico or Arizona things. I know there was still another. Someone saying Happy Valley. No, that was the Int Ranch. That's different. Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, but I just realized. But ranch is used in the name of a bunch of Scientology schools, so it does get confusing. All right, guys. Well, I'm not going to linger on that point. No. Let's move on. Okay, Kazri of Hecate. I always pronounce this wrong. Kazri of Hecate.com. Okay. Recently, about you becoming a lawyer, you said that ship has sailed. You're awesome at what you do, but you could be a great lawyer if you wanted to. Oh, sure, but I wouldn't want to dedicate the time to it. That's the problem there.
Well, and also, you're going to be a great. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and also, you know, the job of lawyering is very time consuming, and I relish just laying in bed watching YouTube, you guys. I don't want to be working on motions and briefs and discoveries and depositions. That sounds like pure unmitigated hell to me.
Yeah, it's drudgery. That's yeah.
Oh shit. Are we stepping? Okay. It says Christy is on Amy Scobie's at 6 p.m. Central. Are they live now? If so, let's wrap this up after we'll go through these chats real quick. Hold on. Are they live?
Okay.
Hold on. Let me check.
I don't know what time 6 p.m. Central would be. Mountain Central.
They are. Let's wrap this up pretty quick.
Yeah,
here.
sure.
Let's wrap this up pretty quick here. Beck, who else born to Sea Org members and messengers? CMO. Anyone here go to Apple School in LA?
No, did not go to Apple School. I don't know anyone that did, but I heard about it when I was in Mace Kingsley.
Nice. Tommy Boone. Thank you. Anon says, I went to Apple School when Danny was there.
Okay.
Nice. Tammy Boone, okie dokie. She must have done it on both channels, I'm guessing. Ellen McFadden watched Behavior Panel. They had a different take on Kutcher Kunis behavior. I think those two are caught in their own web of lies. Loved you with Dana last night. Well, thank you very much. We had a fantastic chat. It was awesome.
Was that the lawyer?
No, another one. I was on 3 different programs yesterday. That's one of the reasons I'm so exhausted. Okay, so LJT Weston, I would love a facial expression analysis done of Mila's face during the apology video. She sure looked like she was hiding something. There you go. Liz Turner, is there an airhead apparent to COB? Will it be the same sneaky moves as when LRH dropped his body? Do you agree that there is no heir apparent to COB, David Miscavige, at this point?
Definitely no heir apparent, and I also believe that's one of the questions that gets asked all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think he even thinks about it, to be honest with you. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. He's going to ride off into the sunset, he hopes.
Joey Boren, are scions a real thing? Well, because I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know how to answer the question.
Is that a Battlestar Galactica reference?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Apostate Alex says, can I just say, excellent flag behind you, Sterling.
Thank you. I told my story on my live yesterday about why the significance of that flag. And what it means to me. So if you get a chance to watch that video and hit subscribe, that'd be awesome.
Very cool. Stacy, any updates on Dan O'Connor, the mad fax machine bandit?
That's so good.
No particular updates. But as soon as we have something, you'll hear it. Believe me. Matt Elliott, wouldn't Jenna know about middle management things like you asked? Okay, so that's a possibility. I always forget what Jenna's post was at middle management. And also, her ex-husband, Dallas, he was at middle management forever too. You would think that these international statistics would be discussed at the weekly meetings of international management. You would think that everybody coming out of middle management would be able to say what the weekly bodies in the shop was, unless for some reason that wasn't one of the major international statistics, but I don't believe that for a second.
Let's remember, though, when you're sitting at the end of the week on a Friday at the staff meeting, you just want to get out of there, and they're covering, in some cases, hundreds of graphs. So to try to remember one of the insignificant graphs along that chain it becomes a blank spot in your memory. Unless that was your stat, you're not going to remember what it is. I'm going to put money on that.
Well, guys, any of you out there who do have a recollection of, important international stats that people who worked at the org level would find very, very important, like, first div 6 starts, first, major services starts, even well done auditing hours, student points are meaningless, bodies in the shop. I don't even, those are the ones that come to mind. Please text me, email me, growing up in Scientology. Let's do a chat. Louis Repetto says, loving your content, Sterling. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Russ T. There was Mace Kingsley in La Canada, Woodland Hills or West Hills, Los Feliz, and a disciplinary ranchy place. Well, that's a lot. Yeah. Wow. Mace Kingsley, Debbie Mace and Carol Kingsley have made out like bandits, like almost nobody else in Scientology has.
I bet. And Mace Kingsley also had a rehabilitation place for children that was in Las Vegas as well. And it's actually the site of a restaurant now that's kind of like everyone goes to. It's an outdoor restaurant right there on Las Vegas. Actually, Aaron Grady would know the name of it, but I used to go to school there because I got kicked out of Mace Kingsley, long story, and got put in, I had to go to Griffith Park and pick up trash every day. And they basically had another version of a children's rehabilitation center there. So it used to be right there in Las Vegas. So I'm sure that was when I was a kid. I'm sure it took off after, but I was gone out of there by 87 or 88, I think. So.
All righty. Jacqueline Leach, the point that Scientology is trying to make is that, like all rich men, paternalist societies, they are just far too important to be guilty. I mean, I think Scientology definitely, I think that's an accurate way to describe how Scientology feels. Rusty, Punky Brewster Apple School. I don't know if that means she went to Apple School or whatever. Would you have known if she went to Apple School, by the way?
I would not. Yeah.
Okay. The One True Morbs. Ron, you're so knowledgeable and good at explaining everything. Everything? My. I feel I could talk the talk if I met a Scientologist in the wild.
No, you're going to fail at some abbreviation. You can't remember them all. Not going to happen.
That would be a funny little segment or gimmick we could do, is bring on people who've never been in Scientology who think they've got the lingo down and see how they can hang in a conversation.
Well, yeah, or we'll just start talking to them, right, and then see if they catch it. If they don't catch something we intentionally said wrong, you're out.
Holly Montgomery, there are facial analysis on YouTube. Saw one from the UK. Cool. Chloe, Aaron, your coverage over the past year has been my favorite TV to watch. Thanks for the laughs and tears. You're straight up legend. Well, thank you very much. Andy Fabulous, if COB died today, would Scientology crumble in a year, or would Marty Rathbun take over and implement changes? Would either of you return to Scientology if David Miscavige is gone? Definitely not. No. Scientology, I don't think would crumble. I don't think David Miscavige is the driving force that keeps Scientology going. Like, Scientologists are very, very dedicated, and they get up and they do their jobs, honestly, probably in spite of David Miscavige, rather than because of him.
Right. And arguably would be better without him.
I truly believe that is correct.
100%.
Okay, just Jucka, thank you very much. Well, guys, we've been going for an hour. I am pooped, and I still have to pre-record something before I go to sleep. So this has been fun, Sterling.
Yeah, well, before I head out, just want to remind, if it's okay with you, I just want to remind everyone, 5:30 Pacific time, I'm going to be interviewing Biddy Blythe. Should be interesting. So if you guys want to head over there, you're welcome to. And Aaron, thanks again for having me on. Having conversation with you is always entertaining, and I really enjoy it, and I hope you keep having me on.
Yeah, and guys, we're going to try to do this weekly, because Wednesdays are always a good day for Sterling to do a chat, and so we're gonna kind of make it a thing.
Awesome,
so,
man.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us this evening. Thank you as always to everybody who watches until the very end, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have 6 squads or not, 6 Scrabble.